Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy. We are on the start of the week session in the Forex trading room for September 20th of 2020. We'll be going through our regular agenda, look at our week's results, our currency strength meter for the month and week, a look at our coming fundamental announcements, a look at the major pairs on the daily charts, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. Starting out with our ledgers, our long-term ledger had a few trades close out in our favor. So we're up about another 4% or 3 point something percent. I forget. I remember we were at 38 something last week. So we've realized nice chunk of gain again. Multiple percentage points are always welcome. We still have 3 trades open on the Aussie dollar long and a couple of pound trades looking at recovery of the pound after the huge drop we saw at the beginning of last week. So that's where we are right now. The intermediate term ledger is also slightly better, less of a percentage change, but moving again in the right direction. We had multiple trades close out, some of them winners, some of them losers. The winners were slightly higher than the losers this time around. And we still have 2 trades open, also looking at pound recovery from last week's devastation. And last but not least, a short-term ledger up a little bit over 3% for the week. We were 4 out of 8, so we were actually 50% successful in the open trades, but the winners outweighed the losers, so we did manage to get a bit of change out of that. There were quite a few trades that did go against us, however, and one significantly large winner. So the winner pretty much made up for the losers, and the other 3 winning trades are our profit for the week. Notes and opportunities for improvement. Volatility was exceptional this week, but not too directional. We had a lot of very wide bounces, but a lot of the week ending or the pairs actually ending flat as the week ended. The market is still poised for stress. We can see that happening across multiple pairs. Political issues are still overshadowing even the pandemic in the U.S., and we had one of our longest running Supreme Court judges did pass away on Friday, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and already that is sparking even more political fights as the succession plan for that position in the Supreme Court is over right now. Commodities such as oil, silver, and gold continue to attract buyers, and in fact, oil is back to where it was before the prior week's drop, so we have a little bit of a boost in oil. Silver has had a pullback in the past month, and we'll see that when we look at our currency strength meter, but it is down about 4% for the month, but still way, way higher than it was before the pandemic. So oil, silver, gold continue to show gains. Our live event is still scheduled for the end of the month, so that is absolutely confirmed, and details are on the website. You can still sign up if you haven't, and we expect to see a nice crowd there. Moving on to our relative strength meter for the past week and the past month, if I can focus your attention to the rightmost columns, the monthly, you can see what I'm talking about at the almost at the bottom with silver. It's down by 4.69% for the month. Gold also lost, but not as much, less than 1 percentage point in the last 30 days. Bigger movers have been the euro pound up 2.64%, the pound JPY down 4.57%, pound dollar down 3.35%. So again, it hasn't been a particularly good month for the pound. However, most of that is represented by a very sharp drop the past week as fears of Brexit negotiations spooked the market yet again. The drop was significantly sharp, and almost immediately the retrace started. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the pound continuing to gain strength through the next week or two. We'll see what happens. And on the weekly, we can see pretty much what I've been saying as regards most of these pairs. But again, Weekly, not too sharp a movement. I think it topped out at 1.5% was the biggest mover. So not the quietest week, but certainly not the busiest either. Fundamental announcements we have scheduled for this week. We have the interest rate decision out of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. That is going to be happening Tuesday evening. I haven't decided yet whether we will combine the evening session with the interest rate decision. I'll think about that between now and when I send out our update. And Thursday early morning, 3:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have the interest rate decision out of the Swiss National Bank. So both of these events will be live traded. There is nothing else that I see in the calendar that would tempt me to open up a special session. With that, we move on to the charts. As you can see from oil, it did bottom out at the little bit over 35. I'm going to say that 37 was its lowest, but now it's back above 40. So the week ended on a positive note for oil. It's still off its most recent high by $1 or $2, but it looks like it's heading back in that direction. Moving on to the currencies, the euro dollar has been in a holding pattern, flat very near the top of the charts for the past, I'm going to say, month or two. And we're still waiting for that next breakout. It is showing no sign of dropping, though, so support is being maintained, but we're still waiting for that push higher than the 119, 120, which is where it got last time it made a move. So I think the market's waiting to see what happens in the US, or perhaps the euro has simply reached its level. Time will tell. Pound dollar, as I mentioned, we had a significant drop the last week or so on fears of Brexit negotiations breaking down yet again. And we started seeing somewhat of a recovery for the prior week, with Friday ending on a down note, but still ending significantly higher than the week had begun. It looks to be following the upper portion of the Ichimoku cloud, so that is acting as support right now. And again, we'll have to see which way the week kicks off. USD/JPY breaking support finally on Friday. We did trade this one very successfully the past week. Caught the entire movement down on at least one of the accounts. On Friday, however, though it did break support, it bounced back up almost immediately, ending exactly as support at the 104.50 as the week ended. This is another one that we need to keep a close eye on to see what is going to happen as the week kicks off. If we see a drop, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big one. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if I do see support breaking, I think we're in for a bigger play than usual. Of course, it can turn around and go back up towards resistance. So again, keep an eye on it and see what exactly it does. USD Canadian retracing the past 2 or 3 weeks, but finally reaching a level just below resistance. So we're not in a bullish retracement just yet. It is a test of resistance, and another one where I suspect it's going to go down even lower, but time will tell. USD Swiss also in a holding pattern, sideways since back in July, much like the euro dollar. So it is waiting for something to move it out of its current range, either up or down, depending which way the market winds blow. So nothing here to trade for longer term, but we may certainly catch a break on shorter term trading if we see a good movement. And again, one of these movements is going to be a breakout, which will lead to even bigger gains. Aussie dollar also holding pattern at the top, very near resistance. Really didn't move at all last week. Basically sideways. So the prior week it had dropped and had a little bit more volatility. Most of the dollar pairs are in this holding pattern right now, waiting for the next thing to kick them off. Kiwi dollar breaking resistance finally towards the end of the week, still following that trend line established since back in March, following it up very nicely. Another one I think we ended up trading for a short amount of time last week, and still very much at the top of the chart. So we're waiting for that break towards higher highs or a bounce. Aussie Canadian holding pattern at the top, right at resistance. So another one where we're waiting to see which way it jumps. Euro Swiss is probably the least directional chart in the mix. It's going in all directions and ultimately in none at all. It's in a rather wide wedge, and again, I don't see any trading opportunities, short or longer term, on this pair. We'll just have to wait it out until it starts doing something interesting again. Euro pound suffering from the issues with the pound. Again, the pound lost quite a bit of value the past 2 or 3 weeks. And this last week had it recovering almost halfway, not quite, until Friday had it going back up looking for resistance. Still not out of the woods, not too sure exactly what's going to be happening. My preference right now is for a short, and indeed we have one open in the intermediate term account, looking for it to return to the outer trend line. But again, time will tell what's going to be happening. Euro JPY breaking support and starting to travel inside the Ichimoku cloud. So this is probably going to be a good opportunity for a short if that movement continues. Also, another one that we need to just observe and see what's going to be happening in the next day or so and see if it gives us a good indication of which way to trade. Euro Canadian following the outer trend line now, but ultimately very flat. It's crossing the Ichimoku cloud in a sideways direction. So again, not really giving us any inkling as to what it will be doing. It looks like the euro has had trouble getting stronger against some of the other currencies for the past month or two. And of course, the CAD is coming off a particularly weak period, mostly on dropping oil prices, but it's starting to show signs of waking up. So if that does happen, if both things end up playing out, the euro not getting any stronger, the CAD recovering, this one is going to give us some great opportunities to trade down. Pound JPY, another pound pair, so suffering the last 2 or 3 weeks. And instead of recovering, however, it went flat for most of the week and ended up breaking support on Friday and staying below support. So no recovery at all on the pound JPY. And, well, another one that bears watching because the recovery might be delayed. We're also seeing, of course, some yen strength, so that might be a better explanation for what we're seeing here. Again, too soon to tell, but opportunities in both directions once it does start moving. It was, again, sideways for pretty much the entire week. Aussie JPY very near the top, testing support, and not too sure where it's going yet. It's still above the Ichimoku cloud, and again, as I mentioned, the yen has been having a good week or two, so we'll see if it does have strength to break support or go in the opposite direction. Again, too soon to tell on this pair. Euro New Zealand starting to go down again. We traded it, ended up getting taken out pretty flat on that trade. It's still at support. I still think it has a ways to go down, probably to the bottommost level of support, but it's been a very slow mover for the past almost a month, starting to go sideways. So another one we'll be watching closely, but no rush. Pound Canadian, what can I say? It's a pound pair, so a tremendous drop until last week when it started recovering. And we did make some good money out of that recovery and then jumped in for a second round, which is still ongoing. So another one where we'll have to see which way it bounces as the week begins. And we are trying to trade it up. Same thing with pound Swiss. Our last pair up for review hit support, bounced off of it as the pound recovery started and ended the week pretty much doing nothing Thursday and Friday. So started another holding pattern. It's still at the very bottom of its prior sideways range, a sideways range that's been ongoing since back in March. So most of the year it's been in a sideways pattern, and we've been waiting for it to break in either direction. It doesn't seem to be showing any signs of doing that, however, though it will likely return to the top of its range before doing anything else. So that may be the only play we have for it. That is the end of the chart. Setups we see in progress as the week begins. Again, the pound pairs, the Brexit separation deadline fear added a lot of volatility to the pound pairs, but the pound weakened way too much, way too quickly, and the retrace has already started. USD pairs, the election cycle is still overshadowing everything else, even the pandemic. And of course, Supreme Court Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg death stoking more unrest. Japan, the JPY pairs, they're starting to show some backbone, as I mentioned while we were doing our charts, and they do have a new prime minister, Abe Shinzo, the prior prime minister, deciding not to run for re-election. I think health issues or something. So Japan is in a position right now where it's losing a prime minister that ruled for, I think, 8 or so years, and that was his second run. He had been prime minister before that. And what Japan is pretty much looking at is which direction the new prime minister is going to take. So a lot of hope, some strength returning to the yen as this plays out. But again, we have to wait and see what exactly is going to happen. Canadian pairs, the CAD showing strength for the first time in months. Still too soon to tell whether that's going to be a longer-term movement, but fingers crossed we'll get some traction out of it. And last but not least, the euro pairs. The euro continues to hold on to gains, but as we saw in the charts, it's having trouble breaking through to the next level. The move might not be over, but it is having trouble making that move or continuing that move. So again, observe, trade safely, and we'll see what we can do. That's it for my charting. My conclusion here or parting words, if you will, is that today I was looking at all the charts and I noticed that I actually do have fun looking at numbers and charts as well as the many indicators. It's almost an artistic sense, a thing of beauty. And I found that I do really enjoy it. I think anyone who becomes good at trading is going to feel the same way or will begin to feel that way at some point. I suspect that trading would be very tedious and boring otherwise. If you don't enjoy looking at charts and looking at numbers, probably you're not going to have a good time trading or good results either. Definitely trading is something that if you don't like it, you shouldn't be doing it. So give that some thought. Trading is definitely not for everyone. But if you enjoy looking at price action and charts, then you're probably a good candidate to learn trading, or you already know how to trade and you're doing it. If you don't enjoy it, then you're probably a better candidate to just let somebody else trade for you. We offer both options with our training as well as our copy trader for those who don't want to learn, just want to profit out of it. And there's nothing wrong or right in either choice. You definitely have to know yourself before you jump into anything. And depending on what kind of person you are, that's going to pretty much determine what kind of trader you become, or maybe not become a trader at all and just let somebody else trade for you. Anyway, that is the end of my spiel for this week. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, folks, then thank you very much. I'll be sending out a recording very shortly, and I look forward to seeing you guys throughout the week. Have a great rest of a weekend.